On this week's episode of A Random Blue Jays First Blue Jays Days, Greg Huck Flener. Greg Huck Flener, a right-handed pitcher, was born February 25, 1969 in Austin, Texas. Huck was selected by the Blue Jays in the 9th round of the 1990 MLB draft out of Cal State Fullerton. He pitched for the Titans for 3 years, 1988 to 1990, rolling up a 21-3 record. 2 of those teams went on to the College World Series. Over the years, Cal State Fullerton has produced many Major League players, including former Blue Jays Matt Chapman, Justin Turner, Reed Johnson, and Ricky Romero. The first overall pick in the 1990 draft was future Hall of Famer Chipper Jones to the Atlanta Braves. The Tigers selected Tony Clark second, and the Phillies selected Mike Lieberthal third. Other players selected in the first round: Alex Fernandez to the White Sox at 4, Mike Mussina to the Orioles at 20. A few other players from that draft include Garrett Anderson to the Angels at 125th, Ray Durham to the White Sox at 132nd, Brett Boone to the Mariners at 134th, Pete Walker at 199 to the Mets. This is the current Blue Jays pitching coach. Future Blue Jay Mark D'Alessandro at 503 to the Angels. At 594th to the Yankees was Andy Pettitte. Jason Varitek to the Astros at 625. Jorge Posada at 646 to the Yankees. Future Blue Jay Lance Painter at 681 to the Padres. And future Blue Jay Dave Berg at 869 to the Angels. In 1990, the Blue Jays made a total of 56 picks, of which 10 made it to the big leagues. The Blue Jays' first pick in 1990 was a right-handed pitcher, Steve Karsay, who was traded to the Athletics as part of the Rickey Henderson trade in 1993. Steve was the best pick by the Blue Jays in an overall weak draft class. Other players to play big league games with Toronto include Felipe Crespo, Paul Manhart, Howard Battle, Ricardo Jordan, and Scott Brow. Players drafted by Toronto to play big league games with other organizations: Travis Baptiste and Tim Hires. 2 other notable Blue Jay picks in 1990. The first was Chris Wanke, drafted 62nd overall by the Jays. He played in the minors for the Blue Jays from 1990 to 1996 before quitting baseball, going back to college with Florida State, and playing quarterback for the Seminoles. He would go on to win the Heisman Trophy as the best college player in football at the age of 28, becoming the oldest ever to do so. Chris would go on to play for 2 teams across 5 years in the NFL. The second was Scott Burrell, drafted at 150th overall by the Jays. He would play 2 years in the Jays minor league system before quitting baseball, returning to UConn to play basketball. He would eventually be drafted by the Charlotte Hornets and play 383 career NBA games. After being drafted by the Blue Jays in 1990, Huck would immediately be assigned to the low A ball St. Catharines Blue Jays, where he would split time between starting and relieving, racking up a 4-3 record across 61 1/3 innings, striking out 46. 1991 would be spent entirely in low A ball for the Myrtle Beach Blue Jays. In 1991, Huck would be used primarily as a closer, finishing out 44 of his 55 games pitched. Across 79 innings, Huck would go 6-4 with 13 saves, with 107 strikeouts against only 41 walks. 1992, Huck would be promoted to the High A Dunedin Blue Jays to start the year. He would go back to splitting time as a starter and coming out of the bullpen. Huck would start 8 games and close another 19 across 112 innings. He would go 7-3 with 8 saves. 1993 would begin in Knoxville with the AA Blue Jays, again splitting his time between starting and closing. In 1993, Huck would make 38 appearances, starting 16 games and coming out of the bullpen for another 22, closing out 10. He would pitch 136 innings, going 13-6 with 4 saves. He would be named a Southern League All-Star for the 1993 season while leading the league in wins. Huck would be called up prior to the September 13th, 1993 game against Detroit. Jack Morris had a sore elbow and was going to miss a start, so Flener was recalled from Knoxville as a bit of an insurance policy. Huck would make his Major League debut later that same day, which would cause some problems, which we will get into. The Blue Jays starting lineup against the Tigers that day: Rickey Henderson in left, Devon White in center, Roberto Alomar at second, Joe Carter in right, Paul Molitor at DH, Tony Fernandez at short, Ed Sprague at third, Pat Borders doing the catching. Alfredo Griffin would pinch run and remain in the game at third base. The starter for the Blue Jays that day in Old Tiger Stadium was Juan Guzman. Other pitchers seeing action include Tony Castillo, Mike Timlin, and Dwayne Ward. The Tigers lineup featured future Hall of Famer Alan Trammell, along with superstars Lou Whitaker, Kirk Gibson, and former Blue Jay Cecil Fielder. At the time of the game, the Blue Jays were 86-63, 1.5 game up on the Yankees in the American League East, so all the games going down the stretch were very key for the Blue Jays to maintain that slim margin. Huck would enter the game in the bottom of the 8th, with the Blue Jays leading 6-5. He was replacing Mike Timlin, who had just hit Alan Trammell. With Skeeter Barnes at second, who had pinch run for Mickey Tettleton, and Alan Trammell at first, Huck would get Chad Crowder to fly out to center field on an 0-1 slider. In the bottom of the 9th, Huck would be replaced by Dwayne Ward, who secured the final 3 outs. Huck's final line, 1 batter faced, 1 batter retired. He would be also credited with a hold. A hold occurs when a relief pitcher enters the game in a save situation and maintains his team's lead for the next relief pitcher, while recording at least 1 out. One of 2 conditions must be met for a pitcher to record a hold. 1, he enters with a lead of 3 runs or less and maintains that lead while recording at least 1 out. He enters the game with the tying run on deck, at the plate, or on the bases and records an out. Huck Flener became the 16,438th player in Major League history. Now, if you were to watch this game back, you would not actually see any player with a Huck Flener jersey on. When Huck was recalled, the equipment manager had no idea he was coming. And Huck, in his haste to get to the stadium, forgot his equipment bag at the hotel. So, in Huck Flener's Major League debut, he was wearing Sean Green's jersey, using Al Leiter's glove, and Pat Henkin's cleats.
He may have been green, but when rookie Huck Flener made his Major League debut in 1993, not even he could have imagined having to make it in Sean Green's jersey.
I didn't get any sleep, was on a bus ride in AA and left my whole equipment bag in the hotel in Detroit. I was so excited to get to the park and got to the field, looked in my locker, and there's nothing, no gloves, no cleats, no nothing. And then there was a little mix-up with our equipment manager, and he didn't know that I was in town yet, and so I had to borrow Sean Green's jersey.
I just started laughing because he's out there making his debut, and all his family and friends are watching here. He's got my name, so they're saying, he probably isn't even out there. It's not really Huck, it's someone else, but. It was a good laugh and a good memory for him, too.
But a short-lived one. 1 batter and 5 appearances later, Huck hurt his elbow. It was a career-threatening injury.
Huck would pitch in 5 more games in 1993, accumulating 6 2/3 innings, giving up 7 hits, 3 runs, 4 walks, and striking out 2. Huck would spend all of 1994 and 95 in Syracuse, which included a long trip to the disabled list thanks to Tommy John surgery. An interesting side note, during spring training in 1994, Huck would strike out Michael Jordan on 3 straight pitches. This is back when his airness thought he was a baseball player. He was not. Huck would make it back to the big leagues with Toronto in 96 for 15 games and 8 more in 1997. Huck would continue to play in the minors and various winter leagues until on January 20th, 2001, while pitching in the Venezuelan Winter League playoffs, he took a line drive off the face. Huck suffered facial fractures, and his right eye was destroyed and had to be removed. His baseball career was over. In retirement from baseball, Huck went into the insurance field and is currently a district manager at Farmers Insurance, at least according to his Facebook page. On our next episode, we look at the Blue Jays' debut of Gift and Gope. Thanks for listening, and have a spectacular day.
Hello. My name's Poku and I don't know what to do.